When the ambulance doors slammed shut and the sirens wailed through the night, I whispered to myself, "Where are they? Why hasn't anyone come?" My chest tightened, not just from the pain shooting through my heart, but from the silence of my phone. No calls, no frantic voices asking if I was okay. I lay there on the gurney, the sterile smell of antiseptic burning my nostrils, the cold metal rails digging into my palms as the paramedics rushed me into the ER. The doctor's words blurred. Emergency surgery, possible heart attack. All I could think was, my family, my husband of 32 years, my 2 grown children, they should be here. But the waiting room stayed empty, like a hollow promise. Before that fateful night, life felt like a well-worn quilt, comforting in its familiarity. I was Evelyn, 58, a schoolteacher in our quiet suburban town, where mornings started with the aroma of fresh coffee brewing in our cozy kitchen. My husband, Tom, would shuffle in, his graying hair tousled, planting a kiss on my forehead before heading to his accounting job. "Morning, love," he'd say, his voice gravelly from sleep, as he buttered toast for us both. Our son, Michael, 28, lived nearby with his wife, Sarah. They dropped by for Sunday dinners, the house filling with laughter over my homemade lasagna. Our daughter, Lisa, 25, was in the city, chasing her marketing career, but she'd call every evening, her bubbly tone lifting my spirits. "Mom, you're the glue holding us together," she'd say. We weren't perfect, little arguments over bills or forgotten anniversaries, but our home was warm, with photos lining the mantel, capturing holidays and milestones. I cherished those small gestures. Tom's hand squeezing mine during evening walks, the kids' hugs that lingered just a second longer. It was ordinary, but it was ours, built on trust one never questioned. Lately, though, a shadow crept in, subtle as the first chill of autumn. Tom started staying late at work, his excuses clipped. "Client meetings, Evie. Don't wait up." His phone buzzed more often, and he'd step outside to answer, the screen's glow casting odd shadows on his face. I noticed the way he'd avoid my eyes over dinner, picking at his food instead of sharing stories like before. Michael and Sarah's visits grew sporadic. Sarah's smile seemed forced, her hugs quick and distant. "Everything okay?" I'd ask, and they'd nod too eagerly. Lisa's calls shortened, laced with vague apologies. "Busy week, Mom." I told myself it was life, kids growing up, Tom stressed from work. But in quiet moments, alone with the ticking grandfather clock in the hall, a nagging doubt whispered, "Something's off." I pushed it down, baking extra cookies for them, hoping sweetness could mend whatever invisible crack was forming. That doubt I tried so hard to bury finally cracked open the night before the ambulance came. I'd been feeling the chest pain for days. Tight, like someone pressing a heavy book against my ribs, but I kept telling myself it was stress, indigestion, anything but my heart giving out. That evening Tom came home later than usual, the front door clicking shut at 10:47. I was in the living room, wrapped in the old Afghan blanket I crocheted when Michael was a baby, pretending to watch television. The room smelled faintly of the lemon polish I'd used that morning. He didn't look at me right away, just dropped his keys on the hall table, clink, and loosened his tie. "Long day," he muttered, heading for the kitchen. I followed slowly. "Tom, are you okay? You've been different." He poured a glass of water, drank half of it standing at the sink, staring out the dark window. "I'm fine, Evie. Just tired." But his shoulders were hunched, the way they used to be when he was hiding report cards from his own mother years ago. I stepped closer. "You've been distant. The kids too. Nobody answers my texts the same way anymore." He set the glass down harder than necessary. "You're imagining things." That stung. I reached for his arm. "Then tell me I'm wrong. Look me in the eye and say nothing's changed." For the first time in weeks he met my gaze. Something flickered there, guilt, maybe fear. Then he looked away. "I can't do this right now." He walked past me, up the stairs. I stood in the kitchen alone, the refrigerator humming like it was trying to fill the silence he left behind. My chest squeezed tighter. I sat at the table, opened my phone, scrolled through old family photos. There we were, Christmas 2019, all 4 of us laughing around the tree. Michael's arm around Sarah. Lisa sticking her tongue out at the camera. Tom's hand resting on my waist like it belonged there. I didn't sleep much. Around 3 a.m. the pain sharpened into something vicious. I gasped, clutched the nightstand, knocked the lamp over. The crash woke Tom. He sat up, sleepy and confused. "Evie, I need help." He moved fast then, called 911, held my hand while we waited, told me it would be okay. But even in that panic, I noticed he didn't call the kids. Not Michael, not Lisa. He just kept saying, "Breathe, love, help's coming." The paramedics arrived. They strapped me to the gurney. Tom rode in the front of the ambulance. I kept waiting for him to pull out his phone, to text the children. "Mom's in trouble. Come now." He never did. In the ER, after the doctors confirmed I needed immediate bypass surgery, they asked for next of kin. Tom stood there, pale under the fluorescent lights, and quietly said, "It's just me tonight." I looked up at him from the bed, oxygen mask fogging with every shallow breath. "Where are the kids, Tom?" He swallowed. They know you're here." That was the moment the last thread of denial snapped. They wheeled me into the operating room at 4:12 a.m. The last thing I saw before the anesthesia took hold was Tom standing in the doorway, hands in his pockets, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. No tears, no promises, just that quiet, defeated posture. When I woke up in recovery 16 hours later, the room was dim, machines beeping softly like a slow heartbeat. My throat burned from the tube they'd removed. A nurse adjusted my smiled gently. "You did great, Mrs. Carter. Family's been waiting." I turned my head slowly. The chair beside my bed was empty. Tom appeared an hour later, carrying a styrofoam cup of coffee that had gone cold. He sat, avoided my eyes at first. Then he spoke, voice low and cracked. "They didn't come because I asked them not to." The words landed like stones in still water. Ripples of disbelief spread through me. "What?" He rubbed his face with both hands. "Sarah's pregnant. 3 months. Michael wanted to tell you in person, but then he found out something else." Tom's voice dropped even lower. "He found messages between me and someone from the office. Old messages from before I ended it. But he didn't believe I ended it. He thought I was still lying to you, to all of them." I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting the little black dots in the pattern so I wouldn't have to look at him. "Lisa knew too," he continued. "She said if they came, they'd have to pretend everything was fine. And they couldn't. Michael said he couldn't look at you and act like the family was still whole when he felt like it was already broken." My chest ached, but not from the incision. This was deeper. "So you all decided to leave me alone on the table?" My voice came out hoarse, almost a whisper. Tom reached for my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't hold on either. "I thought if they stayed away it would give me time to fix things, to tell you myself. I was wrong, Evie. I was so wrong." Silence stretched between us, broken only by the distant murmur of nurses in the hallway. Days passed in the hospital. Michael came first, alone. He stood at the foot of the bed, eyes red, shoulders tight. "Mom." I was angry, Dad, at the whole mess. "I thought if I didn't come, maybe you'd see how much it hurt us too." I looked at my son, my serious, protective boy, and felt the old love rise up despite everything. "I needed you," I said simply. "Not to fix it, just to be here." He broke then, came around the bed, buried his face in my shoulder like he was 5 again. We cried together quietly. No grand apologies, just the truth between us. Lisa arrived the next day with flowers she'd clearly grabbed from the hospital gift shop. She talked fast, nervous, then stopped and just sat holding my hand. Sarah came last, hand on her small belly. She didn't apologize for the distance. Instead she said, "I was scared you'd blame me for everything falling apart." I shook my head. "I don't blame any of you, not fully. We all carried pieces of this." Tom and I talked every day after that. Long, painful conversations. He moved into the guest room when I came home. We're trying not for the old life but for something honest. The kids visit more now. Not out of guilt, but because the pretending stopped. I still feel the scar on my chest when the weather turns cold. A reminder that hearts break in more ways than one. But they can mend too, slowly, with time and truth. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Silence isn't protection. It's just another kind of wound. Would you have waited in that empty waiting room for someone who never showed? Or would you have walked away to protect your own heart? Tell me in the comments below. And if stories like this, real, raw stories of broken trust and quiet healing, mean something to you, consider subscribing to Broken Trust Stories. There's always another chapter waiting.